Yo, hello my subjects, and welcome back to my channel. How's it going? I'm fine. I just stabbed myself. I'm fine. Today I decided, might as well do something a lot more, what would the word be? Educational, if you will. So, I myself, how do I say this? I guess you could say this is more of a personal video. Well, not like personal and like personal, but personal and like I'm doing this just for me because why not? Which is me basically training and showing you how to play certain roles. What I mean by that is I will show you how to act. Now, I am not an actor and I have not had acting classes ever in my life, but I do know how to act. Kinda, eh? So, yeah, let's start with that. Okay. First of all, emotion. When playing a character, you have to put your emotion into that character. For an example, let's go with the angry, or the snapping scene, if you will. When writing a scene where a character snaps and becomes angry, right, you gotta get attached to what they're angry at, or you find something to be angry at and use that to fuel your anger for the acting role. For an example, you might want to think of something that might get you angry and then act, with that voice in mind. Now, for me, I have to prepare myself because I'm not usually the kind of person that likes to get angry, I've got somewhat of a short temper. But basically, this is how I get into acting, or I guess how I get into a role. Again, this is more like a personal video for me to get better at like acting, because I do play characters on this little thing and I like acting. Okay, let me prepare myself. Also, there will be yelling, mostly because when you're writing a snapping scene or when someone's angry, you have to raise your voice to make it sound like you can't just be angry. You gotta sound angry as well. Also, when I'm acting, I tend to do a lot of movements, a lot of hand movements, a lot of hand gestures. Or I tend to move a lot in general. Alright. Get angry, get angry, get angry, get angry. It takes a while. They won't come to you naturally, especially if you're not used to acting. After all these years, you cannot come back here and tell me that. Again, very difficult. You have to prepare yourself, right? You also got to get out of your comfort zone. For an example, I'm not used to, like, being angry. I'm not an angry kind of guy, Like, I usually tend to try not to get angry. So, which is why I like playing people like the Prophet, since the Prophet gives me training on how to play a character that gets angry. You don't have to get loud either. You can just be subtle about the anger, or you can just sound angry in general. For an example, like this. You do not get to compare me to him. I am nothing like how he is. He is nothing more than a waste of space, a waste of time. And that's how you get angry. Now you can get loud or you can be quiet about it. It depends on how you want to do it. If you want to go for an argument type of setting, it's rather to be a lot more louder than a lot more quieter. Or you can go from quiet to a lot more louder. For an example, like this. I've lived all my life, all my years, in fear of being someone like you. Again, you start off quiet and you get louder over time. Now, depending on the scene you're trying to write, depends on the type of anger you are going to be using. Now, again, another type. Now, this is not a character I'm used to playing since not a lot of my characters are like this, but the shy, awkward type. Now, this one's a lot more difficult. You're going to have to dig deep. If you're an introvert, it may come naturally to you. If you are an extrovert, it may be a lot more difficult. You got to learn how to be shy, how to make yourself a lot more presentable, I guess. The best way I can describe it is like, imagine you're trying to talk to someone. Imagine you're trying to talk to your crush, right? That's like the simplest way anyone can get shy talking to their crush. No matter how like social you can be. Like so. Hey, I was wondering if you had you know where the nearest town from here is? I don't mean to be a bother, or I don't mean to necessarily bother you. I'm sorry. It's just I would I'm kind of lost. You gotta be a lot more quiet, a lot more like mumbling territory. You can be a lot more louder if you want to. Just don't make it too loud, because then you won't shy. It won't sound shy at all. Again, this is just my own personal video of like I guess teaching myself. I guess showing myself what I can and cannot do, and what I should train on the most. For one, I should be better at getting angry. I should be better at I should train to be more angry and to play certain parts that I haven't played yet. For example, the shy, anxious type, which I'm not used to playing because most of my characters are either energetic or just do not care, or I guess lazy, or like tired or something, or serious. Never like you see, you also gotta, like, stutter a lot. You also make sure not to make eye contact with the camera. You know, you gotta look down. I would, you see? Now, of course, there's other ways you can play the shy, anxious type. Sorry, I'm thirsty. For one, when playing the shy, angsty type, kind of anxiety type character, you could also write scenes where they are more social. Like, for example, someone like me. When I get comfortable with someone, I usually tend to become more of a yapper, or more like comfortable and do certain things I would not do around certain people. For example, like this. Yeah, and so I used to go to this place, right? And hello, you know, like basically the shy person talking to a friend. right? And then someone approaching them, right? Which is something I have way too much experience with. Usually, though, or you could do the more of a, like, approach of too shy to talk. Like, for example, I don't know what a great example of this is, but, like, that. Now, what I'm not really good at is, of course, playing the angry character, but also something I'm not really good at is writing natural conversation, nor leading up to said anger. For example, most of my conversations are usually either one-sided or two-sided when I sometimes switch between characters. You'll notice that sometimes I do not switch between characters and just decide to speak for them. For an example, a great example of this was the episode I recorded yesterday, where uploaded yesterday, where it's like Mr. K and Anthony speaking. I do not film Mr. K leaving or Mr. K enters. He speaks, and then I go to Anthony, and Anthony basically asks him if he can leave. But the camera doesn't switch back to Mr. K. Instead, Anthony just goes like, okay, bye. Like, instead of the camera going from Mr. K to leaving and being like, have a good one, it's more like Anthony being like, you can see yourself out. Alright, he's gone. You know, like that, instead of switching back. The reason I do this is because I'm way too lazy to go back and forth too much. I know I should do that a lot more, but I'm gonna be honest, I gotta make videos, like, very quickly, because, like, I don't want to be interrupted. I want y'all to be immersed, and I don't want anything to take you out of that immersion. Which is why I try to film when I'm alone, and try to finish filming whenever I possibly can, as fast as I possibly can. Another role that people, that I'm not comfortable with at all is nor a role I have training with at all is the, villain role. I'm not actually really good at being a villain, per se. Like, I think I do a good job as the villain, just not, like, most of my villain characters don't say necessarily evil things. They do evil things, but they're not necessarily, I'm not, like, very good at, like, for example, Crowmaster is a great example of this, where he does evil things. For example, he backstabbed Error, and backstabbed the Prophet, which is something I'll get into later. By later, I mean later in the seasons, in the episodes. I'm still not very good at playing the villain, Like, I could try to make a, classic evil villain, but it's very hard for me to do that when I'm not willing to do banter. Like, I'm not very good with banter because I cannot switch back and forth between the hero and villain. I can try my best evil villain. Again, most of my villains don't do evil villain laughs, mostly because I don't know how to do one. Like, the best I can do is a psychopath laugh, and that's reserved for John, or any psychopathic character that I make in the future. So the best evil villain laugh I can do is something like... Also, I have a cough. So doing laughs are, like, out of the picture for now. As for anything else, well... Give me a moment, there's something stuck in between my teeth. Anywho. As for other roles, I already showed y'all how to play as a psychopath. However, psychopathic laugh, I don't think I'm very good at. Like, I can do it. I just don't like doing it. Again, this is a studio apartment. If I could, I would be a lot more louder with my laughs. It's just, I would not, because then, noise complaint. As for anything else, I would also like to, to show y'all other roles that I did. But yeah, that's how you become a angry character, or just how to act in general. Now, there are other roles that I could show you, but there's not other roles that I can think of for at the moment. When writing a character, that's all up to you. I pull a lot of inspiration from other media characters when writing certain characters, or when writing certain scenes. Sometimes I come up with my own original scenes. For example, my favorite scene out of the whole entire scenes, every scene I've done, including the AUs, is the scene during season 6, episode whatever, You Were Never in Control. That was my most favorite scene from that episode, was the little ending note for Anthony and the Prophet. Because of what they said. You know, it's like a great, like, character, right? Because, like, the Prophet looks at Anthony and basically says, "You are nothing," and turns around. Anthony then says, "And you are something," and then turns around. And they walk their separate ways. That was my favorite scene for a couple reasons. The biggest reason why, though, is because, one, it was my best acting prowess, I think, when it came to that scene in particular. To be fair, I've been getting better, I hope, at acting. 2, it's because of how mentally flawed both of the characters are. You see, they both have separate mentalities. Prophet is egotistical. He thinks he's better than everyone else. Therefore, Anthony saying "you are something" is validating that fact. Anthony, by saying "you are something," is basically agreeing with the Prophet, saying that he is better than everyone else, including himself. While with Anthony, with the Prophet saying "you are nothing," it reaffirms to Anthony that yes, he is nothing. They both have very horrible mentalities. Prophet puts himself above everyone else. Anthony puts himself below everyone else, including himself. He considers himself to basically, he puts himself down a lot, is what I'm trying to say. The Prophet puts himself up a lot. So, in that moment, in that one little scene, Anthony was feeding into the Prophet's ego, while the Prophet was feeding Anthony's low self-confidence and low sense of self. They were both encouraging their most unhealthy mentality. They were encouraging both's unhealthy mindset, basically. And that's why it was my favorite scene. Because if you pay real close attention, Anthony and the Prophet are very different, but also the same. And as the story goes on, you'll see why they're the similarities they have, and of course they'll also be pointed out. You know. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It was more of a like personal video, I guess you could say, a video for myself where I basically like see how far I've gotten into acting and just in general reminding myself to basically be more better at like training myself to be, again, when being a character, I want to actually be that character. I want to put my emotions into said character, which is why when playing the prophet, I need to train on being a lot more angrier and a lot more like stuff like that. Other than that, have a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, and or night. I'm getting itchy. Sorry. Have a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, and or night. I'll see y'all whenever I'm done hibernating. Goodbye, my subjects. Peace.